Let's begin by offering our respects to the founder Acharya of ISKCON, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare.
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
Okay, so what did we see in the previous class?
Five stages of Brahman realization.
5 stages of Brahman realization.
That Anyamaya, Jnanamaya,
Oh, yes.
Vijnana.
Oh, yes. The 5 stages, correct. Or the 5 coverings. Yes.
Coverings.
Yes. Okay, yes. So we saw Annamaya, Pranamaya, Jnanamaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya. Very nice. What else did we see?
We saw that there are 24 elements. 24 elements here in the text 6, 7.
Yes.
That there are in total 24 elements, right?
Yes, the 24 elements of material nature. Very nice.
Of material nature.
Yes. Okay. What else did we see?
We saw that the unmanifested element is called as Pradhan, and when Vishnu glances on this unmanifested element, which is Pradhan, Shiva takes his form to manifest, or like Shiva and Durga, they unite to form this material nature.
Yeah, they unite, and the living entities are transformed into the womb of Durga Devi, and from her womb all the living entities become manifest. Yes, very nice. What else did we see? So Mehak was paying close attention in the class.
Trying to.
Okay, so let's have a recap, because this is the most technical chapter. This chapter, titled Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness, begins with Arjuna asking, he's inquiring about 6 subject matters. He wants to know what is Prakriti, Purusha, Kshetra, Kshetragya, Jnana, and Neya. And Krishna answers immediately that the Kshetra is the body or the field of activities. Kshetra means a field of activities, which is our body. And the knower of this body is the Kshetragya, knower of the field. So, of course, the Jiva, the individual soul, is the knower of the field of activities. But there is another knower of the body or the field of activities, which is the super soul or the Lord himself. He says, I am also the knower. So there are two knowers of the bodies. There are two Kshetragyas. One is the individual soul and the other is the super soul. Now the super soul or the Lord or Krishna, he knows what is going on in all the bodies, but the individual soul only knows what is going on in his body. So this is the difference between the soul and the super soul. We cannot become equal to the Lord. After he answers these two questions, then he briefly says, what is knowledge? Knowledge means to know the body and to know the two knowers of the body. See, here it says this body, and it's to understand this body and its knower is called the knowledge. So Jnana, he briefly answers here in text 3. But he goes on to explain Jnana in great detail in these verses 8 to 12, where he's giving us 20 items of knowledge. He says, all these items, all these I declare to be knowledge. So here in this section, he's giving us 20 items of knowledge. Why is he giving us these 20 items of knowledge here? Because previously in verses 6 to 7, when he gives us the 24 elements of the material nature, he tells us how the living entity is restricted by these elements. So we saw the analogy of a fence, right? So these are like a fencing in the backyard of our house. The child is playing there and he thinks he's very happy, but he is not aware because he has childlike intelligence. He doesn't know that beyond the fence there is a whole new world altogether. So in the same way, no matter whether we are in the body of an ant or in the human being or in the body of a demigod or in the body of Lord Brahma, still we are in a fencing. We are in this cage of material world with these 24 elements. And that fence, our field of activities, the fence restricts our activities greatly. So no matter whether we are in the body of even Lord Brahma, still that fencing is insignificant compared to the cosmic manifestation. Because remember, this entire material world with all these millions and billions of planets is still only a small, dark, shadow-like substance in the one corner of the spiritual realm. Remember, we saw that picture. So therefore, that fence is insignificant. So therefore, we should not be like the frog in the well and think that I am happy, I am satisfied in my well. So now how to come out of this frog in the well mentality, how to come out of this fencing? For that, we need knowledge. And therefore, after this 6 and 7, then Krishna gives us these 20 items of knowledge, because with these items of knowledge, we can come out of our insignificant fence. And when we discuss this, we discuss which is the most important item. Which was it?
Unalloyed devotion to me.
Yes, unalloyed devotion to me. Mai cha ananya yogena. Mai cha ananya yogena. Constant and unalloyed devotion to me. Why this is most important is because once we have this, then automatically we have all the other 19 qualities, including approaching a bona fide spiritual master, which was Acharya Upasanam, Krishna had said in Sanskrit, right? Because once we have unalloyed devotion to Krishna, then automatically we are humble, we are prideless, we are non-violent, tolerant, simplicity. We have already approached a bona fide spiritual master, cleanness. So all these qualities automatically are manifest in the body of a person who has unalloyed or pure devotion to the Lord. So this is where we stopped in the previous class. Today we have to start from text number 13. Before we start today's session, please repeat Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Devasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Who can read today? We need 2 volunteers.
I can read, Mataji.
Okay, thank you, Mahesh. So, what would you like to read?
I can read the text.
Okay. Any volunteers for the translations?
I'll read the translation.
Okay, thank you, Naresh. So let's read this.
Section 3, 13.13 to 13.19. Krishna explains the object of knowledge. Krishna addresses the 6th question. The soul can know the super soul, the ultimate object of knowledge. Only devotees can understand the field of activities, the body, process of knowledge, and both the soul and super soul.
So far, Krishna has explained 3 out of 6 subject matters which Arjuna wanted to know. He has explained what is Kshetra, Kshetragya, and Jnana. He's explained what is the field of activities, who is the knower of the field of activities, and what is knowledge. Now Krishna is going to address Arjuna's 6th question, which is Neya. What is the object of knowledge? What is it that one has to know about? So let's see what Krishna has to say.
ध्येयं यत्तत् प्रवक्ष्यामि यज्ञात्वामृतमश्नुते अनादिमत्परं ब्रह्म न सत्तन्नासदुच्यते.
I shall now explain the knowable knowing which you will taste the eternal Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world.
So now Krishna says that now I will explain the knowable, the Neya. And he says, who is Neya? He says Brahman, the spirit. So here Brahman doesn't mean Brahman effulgence. Brahman means the spirit soul. One Sanskrit word can have many meanings, so we should not get confused. So he's saying that Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me. So yes, the individual soul is eternal, beginningless. It is also eternal like the Lord himself, but it is subordinate. So the jiva is subordinate to Krishna and lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. So because the spirit soul is spiritual, it is beyond the cause and effect of this material world. The problem is when the spirit soul takes up a material body, then it is conditioned according to the body that it has. But the spirit soul is beginningless and subordinate and lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. Now he's talking about another object of knowledge. The other object of knowledge which Krishna is going to explain from 13.14 onwards is the super soul. So first he says the knowable is the soul, and then he says the knowable is the super soul. Why? Because to understand the super soul, first we should understand the individual spirit soul. Only then we will be able to understand the super soul. Okay, let's go to 14.
सर्वतः पाणिपादं तत् सर्वतोक्षिशिरोमुखं सर्वतः श्रुतिमल्लोके सर्वमावृत्य तिष्ठति.
Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the supersoul exists, pervading everything.
So now he's saying that the object of knowledge is the super soul. The super soul is everywhere. Everywhere, his hands and legs, his eyes, heads and faces, ears. Why? Because he has entered into the hearts of every living entity. So therefore, the super soul is existing everywhere, and everywhere are his hands, legs, etc. And he pervades everything.
सर्वेन्द्रियगुणाभासं सर्वेन्द्रियविवर्जितम् असक्तं सर्वभृच्चैव निर्गुणं गुणभोक्तृ च.
The Supersoul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached. Although he is the maintainer of all living beings, he transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature.
So Krishna is elaborating more on the super soul, and he says that he is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. Nirguna. Nirguna, again, it doesn't mean that he has no senses. It means that he has no material senses, but he does have spiritual senses. He doesn't have material eyes like us, but he has spiritual eyes. Therefore, even though he is in the spiritual realm, and he's also in the core of our hearts, and he also manifests in the deity form, because he has spiritual eyes, he can accept whatever offering we make to him by just glancing at the offering. He doesn't have material legs, but he has spiritual legs. Therefore, he can travel anywhere in the cosmic manifestation. So he doesn't have material senses, but he has spiritual senses. He's the maintainer of all living entities. He transcends the modes of material nature. So he's not within the mode of goodness or passion or ignorance. He's beyond all the three modes of nature. And he's also the master of the modes of material nature, because they're all working under his direction.
बहिरन्तश्च भूतानाम् अचरं चरमेव च सूक्ष्मत्वात् तदविज्ञेयम् दूरस्थं चान्तिके च तत्.
The Supreme Truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non-moving. Because he is subtle, he is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all.
So he is beyond the power of the material senses. What are we discussing here? Krishna is telling who is Neya, right? Who is Neya? Who's the object of knowledge? Now here he is describing the Neya as Avigneya, beyond the power of material senses. We cannot know him. He is the knowable, but we cannot know him through the material senses. What is the only way by which we can know him? By rendering devotional service. So we can go through millions and billions and quadrillion lifetimes, one after another. But unless we don't engage in devotional service, we will not be able to understand, we will not be able to know the knowable. So then he's saying that the Neya is actually Avigneya. And then he says, although far, far away, he is also near to all. So see, when Krishna seems far away, it is we who have strayed away. If we live our lifetime without engaging in devotional services, then we go through so many frustrations, so many. We know that the material world is designed to frustrate us, right? It promises us so much, but at the end of the day, we only get pain and suffering. That's the nature of the material world. So if we don't engage in devotional service, then we feel so far away from the Lord. We do not feel the protection of the Lord. We do not feel the proximity, the love, the affection. But when we start to render devotional service, then we are able to perceive the Lord in the core of our hearts. We see how the Lord begins to reciprocate to our desires, and how the Lord, and then because we are able to perceive the Lord after we start to render devotional service, then we realize that, oh, actually the Lord was always there in my heart. If I felt that he is not around, it's because I went away from him. I strayed away from him. It's not that Krishna went away from me. So when Krishna seems far away, it is we who have strayed away.
अविभक्तं च भूतेषु विभक्तमिव च स्थितं भूतभर्तृ च तज्ज्ञेयं ग्रसिष्णुप्रभविष्णु च.
Although the supersoul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he deveres and develops all.
So just because the super soul is in the heart of every living entity, it appears that the super soul is divided. But no, the super soul is never divided. The super soul is still one personality. Not that the super soul in my heart is better than the super soul in your heart. No, it's the same personality. He's the same person, right? So he's situated as one. He appears to be divided, but he is never divided. He's the maintainer. He devours and develops. So which means he also he's a creator, he is the maintainer, and he is the destroyer. So to understand how the super soul is one personality, although he's in the heart of every living entity, we give the example of the sun and the meridian. Let's read this text.
The sun at the meridian is situated in its place. But if one goes for 5,000 miles in all directions and asks, "Where is the sun?" everyone will say that it is shining on his head. In the Vedic literature, this example is given to show that although he is undivided, he is situated as if divided.
So one may say that no, everyone who's at the different points in the meridian will say, no, the sun is on top of my head. And others say, no, but the sun is on top of my head. Maybe probably one is in the extreme north and the other is in the extreme south. No, but still the sun is only one. It appears to be divided, but still the sun is only one. So this way we understand how the super soul is one, although it appears to be divided in the different living entities.
ज्योतिषामपि तज्ज्योतिः तमसः परमुच्यते ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं ज्ञानगम्यं हृदि सर्वस्य विष्ठितम्.
He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart.
Okay, so here again Krishna is talking about how the super soul is a source of light in all luminous objects. He's beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. So we cannot really see the super soul. We can perceive the super soul, but we cannot see the super soul face to face unless, of course, one realizes, one comes to the level of Paramatma realization. So he is the knowledge, he is Jnana. He is the object of knowledge. It is he whom we have to know. And he's also the goal of knowledge. After we come to know him, also we have to go to him only. So the super soul is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. Hridi sarvasya vishtitam. Now, if you observe, if we go back to 13.13, here Krishna says that the noble is the individual soul, the spirit. 14 onwards, he says that the noble is the super soul. But if you see the Sanskrit of the verses 14, 15, 16, and 17, there is no word in Sanskrit that indicates that Krishna is talking about the super soul. But Srila Prabhupada has put that super soul word in the translation. Here, one may misunderstand that Krishna is talking about the Brahman effulgence, the Brahma Jyoti, because Krishna is saying that this pervades everything, everywhere are his hands, he can be perceived everywhere, right? So there is and it has been like this that philosophers say that here Krishna is talking about the Brahman effulgence. But Prabhupada writes super soul, even though Krishna is not directly saying that it is super soul. This is the trend in 14, 15, 16, and 17. It is only in verse 18 that Krishna finally reveals that what he's talking about is actually the super soul. What is the Sanskrit here where Krishna makes it obvious that he's talking about the super soul?
Sarvasya.
Sarvasya, what? Sarvasya means everything.
He's situated
Ah,
in
yes,
everybody.
exactly. So Hridi Sarvasya Vishtitam. Hridi means heart. So he's situated. Hridi Sarvasya Vishtitam. He's situated in the heart of every living entity. So here only Krishna is making it obvious that he's talking about the super soul. So why Prabhupada writes in these verses that Krishna is talking about the super soul is because, again, a devotee of the Lord is more merciful than the Lord. If we read 14, 15, 16, 17, thinking that here actually Krishna is talking about the Brahman effulgence, or that he's talking about the Jiva, because here in 13 he's talking about Brahman, the spirit, right? So one may also misunderstand and think that, oh, here he's talking about the Jiva. So just imagine one reads 14, 15, 16, 17, thinking that Krishna is talking about the Brahman effulgence or he's thinking about the Jiva. And then in 18, we realize, oh, but actually he's talking about the super soul. Now the person will have to go back and read the whole thing again and understand the whole thing again from the correct angle of vision, isn't it? So Prabhupada is saving us that time and energy and effort by telling us before itself that Krishna actually is talking about the super soul. So this is how Prabhupada so expertly has composed his books. He purports the translations. And even if you read the purport of 13.18, Srila Prabhupada gives many evidences or quotes from different Shastric references to prove that Krishna is talking about the super soul in this section. That he is not talking about neither the Jiva nor the Brahman effulgence. So let's read a summary of this section.
Super soul as the object of knowledge. Neya, 13.14 to 13.18. Characteristics of the super soul. All pervading, his hands, legs, eyes, ears, heads, and faces are everywhere. Original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. Unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living entities. Transcendental to the modes of material nature, although he is the master of all modes. All reconciling, outside and inside of all living beings. Subtle and beyond the perception of material senses. Undivided. Although appears divided among all beings, maintainer of all, also devours and develops all. Source of all knowledge and enlightenment, situated in one's heart.
Okay, so basically what is Krishna explaining here? He's explaining the object of knowledge, Neya. Now he concludes the discussion on the subject matter by telling us who is qualified to understand. Let's see what he said.
इति क्षेत्रं तथा ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं चोक्तं समासतः मद्भक्त एतद्विज्ञाय मद्भावायोपपद्यते.
Thus, the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature.
So who can understand what Krishna has described so far in the chapter? Krishna says the qualification is one has to be my devotee. Only my devotee can understand this, Krishna says. So a non-devotee will never be able to understand. So let's see a summary.
The Lord has described in summary the body, knowledge, and the knowable. This knowledge is of three things: the knower, the knowable, and the process of knowing. Combined, these are called Vijnana. or the science of knowledge. Perfect knowledge can be understood by the unalloyed devotees of the Lord directly. Others are unable to understand. To summarize, one may understand that verses 6 and 7 analyze the material elements and certain manifestations of the symptoms of life. These combine to form the body or the field of activities. Verses 8 through 12 describe the process of knowledge for understanding both types of knower of the field of activities, namely the soul and the supersoul. Verses 13 through 18 describe the soul and the supreme lord or the supersoul. Bhagavad Gita 13.19 purport.
Okay, so with that, we end this section. And now Krishna is going to address the first two questions of Arjuna. So remember, out of 6, he has answered 4, but the first two Krishna has not yet answered, which is Prakriti and Purusha. So let's see how Krishna is going to answer this. What is Prakriti and what is Purusha?
प्रकृतिं पुरुषं चैव विद्यनादि उभावपि विकारांश्च गुणांश्चैव विद्धि प्रकृतिसम्भवान्.
Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformation and the modes of matter are products of material nature.
So material nature, Prakriti, and Purusha, living entities. The word Purusha means enjoyer. Okay. So again, Purusha has many meanings. Here, the meaning is enjoyer. So the Jiva is referred to as a Purusha, but we have to remember that the Jiva has only minute independence, right? So therefore, the Jiva has chosen to come to this material world and see what it is to enjoy independently from Krishna. Because the Jiva tries to enjoy this material world, therefore the Jiva is called as the Purusha or the enjoyer. But he is a Purusha with a small p. He is not the master enjoyer. He cannot completely enjoy because we can never enjoy independently from Krishna. So therefore the Lord or the super soul is the Purusha with a capital P, and the Jiva is the Purusha with a small p, because he tries to enjoy this material nature. So what do we see here? That they are both beginningless. Both material nature and Jiva, both are eternal. Both are beginningless. Now, we saw in the previous class, as Mahek mentioned also in the beginning, that material nature is existing in the inactive state called as Pradhana. And then it is activated by the glance of Mahavishnu. So yes, everything has become activated at a certain point. It's not eternal. But eternally, material nature is situated as the dark cloud-like substance in the inactive state as Pradhana. So therefore, material nature is also eternal. It is also beginningless. And of course, Jiva, the spirit soul, is spiritual. So therefore, it is also beginningless. Their transformations. Now, the Jiva does not undergo any transformation. The soul remains unchanged. The material nature, yes, undergoes transformations, because at the end, when there is at the end of Brahma's lifetime, all the planets go into the body of Mahavishnu. Then again, they come out from the body of Mahavishnu when he breathes out. Yes. So material nature goes through transformations, but the Jiva does not go through any transformation. Let's read this.
Focus of learning, purport 13.20. Chapter 13 tells us about the body and the differences between the two knowers of the body. Body is the field, and the embodied individual soul is enjoying the activities of the body and therefore called Purusha. Living entity is in the category of Lord's energy. Super soul is another knower of the body in the category of the Lord's personal expansion. Mystery of material creation. Similarity, both Living entity and material nature are eternal. Material nature is eternal, although specific manifestations of matter are temporary. Living entity is eternal because of being Lord's superior energy. Difference between material nature and living entity. Material nature has constant transformation, but nature of living entity is non-changing. Material nature is absorbed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mahavishnu, and whenever required, it is manifested through the Mahatattva. The living entity also gets absorbed in Mahavishnu, and with the coming of the material nature, they are given a chance to prepare to go back to Godhead.
So very important point in the beginning. Living entity is the energy of the Lord. The Jiva is the energy of the Lord, but the super soul is the personal expansion of the Lord. Therefore, it is superior to Jiva. And the other points we have already discussed here.
See, why the eternal living entity falls down to material world? Due to rebellious nature. Second, it really does not matter how we came in contact with matter. Third, the Supreme Lord knows how and why this took place. D. What does the Lord focus on in the scriptures? The living entity attracted by the material nature is undergoing a hard struggle for material existence. Know for certain that all transformations and influences of material nature by the three modes are productions of material nature. As far as spirit soul is concerned, living entities are all the same, and all transformations and varieties are due to the body.
So why we are here? Due to our rebellious nature. We have discussed before, right? We are here because we wanted to see what it is like to enjoy independently from Krishna, what it is like to become the masters. We don't want to be the servants. So therefore, we are here in this material world. Now, it really does not matter how we came in contact with matter. It's not important. What is important is how we can come out of this place. That is important. Let's say we are surrounded, we are in a place which is surrounded by fire. Are we going to first think what has caused this fire? Or are we first going to concentrate on getting out of this place which is on fire? What is more important? Of course, it is more important to come out of the place which is on fire. Later, we can make the inquiries, right? Later, we can think, what is it that caused the fire? Was it a short circuit? Did somebody purposely set fire to the house? Those questions we can inquire later. But immediately, what is important? How to come out of this fire. So right now, we are in the fire of material existence. And what matters is we have to come out of this. Later, if we want, we can inquire, oh, what did I do? Why did I get this body? How did I come into contact with matter? Then later those questions can be asked if we want. And in the last line, as far as spirit soul is concerned, living entities are all the same. So the jiva is the same. Transformations and varieties are due to the body. So we have different varieties of bodies. We have 8,400,000 different kinds of bodies that go through transformations, right? There is birth, then there is growth, then it stays for some time, then it dwindles, there is old age, and there is death. So the body is going through transformations, but the soul always remains the same. That's why if you ask even a 60-year-old man, the feeling is still the same as he will feel the same as he felt when he was a 20-year-old. It's just that the body has become old and he's not able to do so many things because physically health does not permit. But the feeling is the same because the spirit soul does not change. It does not undergo any transformation.
कार्यकारणकर्तृत्वे हेतुः प्रकृतिरुच्यते पुरुषः सुखदुःखानां भोक्तृत्वे हेतुरुच्यते.
Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world.
Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, And living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyment. So because we desire certain things, therefore, to fulfill our desires, a certain body is provided to us. So if we are very fond of meat eating, then we are given the body of a tiger. If we love to sleep a lot, then we are given the body of a polar bear. So like that, different, based on our desires, we are given different bodies, and nature, material nature arranges for that particular kind of body. So there are so many millions and millions of desires. And to fulfill those different varieties of desire, 8,400,000 different kinds of bodies are made available through material nature. And we get that kind of body. So desire is very crucial. We have to be very careful what we desire. Srila Prabhupada said that if you are attached to even one gulab jamun, then you have to come back. And this is the reason why we don't have any kind of intoxicants, including tea and coffee, because tea is and coffee, they contain caffeine. And when we drink, if somebody is addicted to caffeine and does not drink it, then the body starts to react, isn't it? In extreme cases, the head starts to pain, the eyes start to water. So these are things that are going to interfere with our sadhana, and they keep us in this material realm. Therefore, we don't have anything that can be the cause of bondage. So we have to be very careful about what our desires are. We should not be attached. We can be attached to spiritual to anything that is spiritual, and we can have spiritual desires, but material desires will keep us in this material realm. So, the analogy is, if we are in an ocean, in the middle of an ocean, wave after wave are going to hit us is going to toss us from one wave to the other wave in the ocean, isn't it? Like that, desires, one desire after another desire is going to toss us in different bodies in this material realm. So we have to be very careful what kind of people we associate with also. If we are going to associate with people who are materialistic, then they are only going to fan our material desires. Somebody would say, oh, what is this? You're driving the same car for the past 5 years. Look at this latest model in the market. Look, this is such a nice, luxurious car. It doesn't cost much. Why don't you take it? So if we are going to associate with such people, then they are going to fan our material desires. So we have to be very, very careful that we associate with those people who are going to fan our spiritual desires, not our material desires. And also, when we take, not when we take, but we have to take to spiritual practices to the fullest extent possible, not become surface devotees. Not that 50% I will follow spirituality, but 50% I also want to enjoy. I want to go out for these nice parties and enjoy, and what is that? Enjoy, what do they call it? A good social life. Yes. So if we are going to be only 50% spiritual and 50% material in the name of socializing, then to that 50%, we are going to again have to accept another material body to fulfill the 50% material desire that we have. So we should not become surface devotees. Let's just me do a little bit, let me do the bare minimum, but rest I want to enjoy materially. We have to go deep in our practice of spirituality. We have to become serious devotees and attain the goal of this human life and go back home, back to Godhead. Not only do we have to attain the goal ourselves, we have to also help each other to attain the goal. So that's what a true friend does, isn't it? For example, if you see me doing some nonsense, then out of genuine concern, you have every right to tell me that, excuse me, you're going off track. Please come back on track. You're not supposed to do this. And if I see you doing that, then I can also tell you that, please come back on track. This is not the way to do it. This is what is real friendship. Real friendship is not you scratch my back, I scratch your back. At the end, we both will be happy. No, this is what is the use of a relationship if it does not help each other to go back to the spiritual realm? What is the use of that relationship? It's better to get rid of relationships which are toxic, which are not good for our spiritual well-being. We have a video by His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. He explains this point in detail. Let's hear.
I remember once I was sitting here on the bank of the river Ganga, and up above me I looked into a cloudless sky, and soaring was a hawk. Its feathers of brown, gold, red seemed to be illuminated by the sun. It was circling lower and lower and lower till it was just a few meters above my head. And I looked up at this hawk and saw its yellow eyes intensely gazing into the river, looking for something. Suddenly, the hawk dove headfirst right into the river Ganga. Then there was a skirmish. They were splashing, and the hawk was underwater mainly. And a few seconds later, came out with a flapping fish in his claws. Fish was struggling and squirming for its life as the hawk flew into the forest out of sight. But that fish was just swimming along like any other day with its friends, its family, looking for food, having fun, swishing around. Didn't expect anything traumatic to happen. But suddenly, that fish was ripped right out of its reality. Away from everything it identified with. It was about to die. And isn't that situation potentially for everyone? We just go upon our lives like any other day, and the hawk of fate strikes. There's a death in the family, there's a traumatic experience, disease, or death itself. Perhaps I was thinking at that time, the lesson is we should not be complacent. We should take the opportunities we have in our spiritual life very, very seriously. One of the greatest enemies for a yogi is procrastination. We just get into the groove of our lives and we put the most important things off for another day. But we do not know that this yellow-eyed hawk of fate may come for us at any moment. But then there was another lesson. That if that fish was swimming deeper, the hawk couldn't touch it. In the same way, if we go deeper into our spiritual practices, deeper into our meditation, our satsang, our kirtan, absorb our minds to that deeper place within our heart where there is real fulfillment, then whatever situation may come upon us in this world, it cannot really affect us.
So Very nice lesson from this video, isn't it? We should not become surface devotees. There are some quotes here from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which I put, where repeatedly we see how the acharyas, they tell us, don't engage in sense gratification. Don't engage in sense gratification. Simplify your life. We have to simplify our lives and go back home. What is the use of having relationships in the name of socialization? But at the end of the day, in these relationships, we are only engaging in sense gratification. What is the use? You come to my house, I come to your house, we have nice lunch, dinner together. What is the use? Unless we are visiting each other, we are serving each other prasad, and we are discussing Krishna consciousness, we are helping each other in Krishna consciousness, then there is meaning to that relationship. Otherwise, what is the use of having such relationships? We will only become surface devotees. Let us read this translation.
Am I supposed to read or is?
Yeah, you can read, Naresh.
Yeah. Even the Sanskrit?
No, only the translation.
Yeah. Lord Sabhadeva told his sons, my dear boys, of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stool. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal, blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever.
One more.
When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another.
So here I just put two references of how sense gratification is not recommended for our sadhana. It's not very intelligent to engage in sense gratification, but there are so many more, so many more. Every time the acharyas tell us time and again, simplify your life. Do not engage in sense gratification. Realize God and go back to Godhead. Unless we are not simple, we cannot teach our children also simplicity. So then it's a cycle. It goes on and on and on. Yes. This material world, as we discussed before, is designed to frustrate us. It is designed to frustrate us. So let's not think that we are comfortable here. Let's not think that it's okay, it's fine, we are happy, let's enjoy. No, it is designed to frustrate us and we will be frustrated. So we have to use our intelligence. Now one may say, all right, but still I cannot be 100% completely Krishna conscious. I cannot be 100% completely spiritual. So then what? Let's see what Prabhupada has to say from this pastime of his. Let's read this.
At the end of one lecture, Srila Prabhupada told the devotees, if you become 90% Krishna conscious, you will go back home, back to Godhead. Looking out into his audience, he saw that the devotees looked crestfallen. So then he said, if you become 80% Krishna conscious, you will go back home, back to Godhead. Still, the devotees expressed doubt that they could become even 80% Krishna conscious. So then Srila Prabhupada said, okay, 70%. And then the devotees responded with a big Jai. But as Srila Prabhupada was returning to his quarters, another devotee expressed concern that he would not be able to become even 70% Krishna conscious. So then Prabhupada said, okay, you just hold on to my dhoti. I have the key to the back door.
So here is where the spiritual master's mercy plays a big role. We cannot be perfect. Yes, we chant 16 rounds, but are we chanting all our 16 rounds with full concentration? We follow the 4 regulative principles, but are we very strictly following the 4 regulative principles? We say that we fast on Ekadasi, but are we fasting or are we feasting on Ekadasi? Probably we are eating more on Ekadasi than the regular days. Yes. So because that's where the role of the spiritual master, his mercy can get us back to Krishna. But at least we have to sincerely try. When will the spiritual master take us through the back door? At least when we have sincerely tried, despite all the faults. For a Kshatriya, if he dies fighting on the battlefield, he is glorified, irrespective of whether the war was won on his side or it was lost, or even anybody who is in the defense forces. If somebody is in the army and he's fighting the war for his country and he dies fighting the war, he is glorified. Even if his country loses the war, still he is glorified. So at least we have to die fighting on the battlefield of Maya. At least we have to be sincerely trying. At least we should do the best that we can do. What we cannot do, then the mercy of the Guru will complete it for us and he will take us through the back door. But at least we have to sincerely try. If we do not give our 100% out of laziness or out of the desire to enjoy senses, we think that it's okay, chalta hai. Once in a while it's okay, doesn't matter. Then that is not going to please the spiritual master. That is not going to please the spiritual master. So we have to please the spiritual master. And how do we please the spiritual master? By putting in our sincere efforts. Whether we are successful or not, that the spiritual master will take care. And why does Krishna have to allow Srila Prabhupada to bring someone through the back door? Well, because he's a pure devotee. And the Lord feels obliged to fulfill the desire of his pure devotees. That is the potency of a pure devotee. So Krishna has to fulfill the desire of his pure devotee. And the desire of the pure devotee is, I want to take this person. He's a sincere soul. He tried, although he was not 100% Krishna consciousness, but still he tried his best. So I want to bring him back to God. So that's how he can enter the spiritual realm. Srila Prabhupada is the best doctor. And he has given us the best medicine for our material disease. Chant 16 rounds, follow the 4 principles, and go back home, back to Godhead. No other circus is required. Nothing else is required. Keep it simple and just follow and attain the goal of human life. Let's go to 20.
पुरुषः प्रकृतिस्थो हि भुङ्क्ते प्रकृतिजान् गुणान् कारणं गुणसङ्गोऽस्य सदसद्यो निजन्मसु
Naresh, are you there?
Yeah, I was reading it. Sorry. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the 3 modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species.
So the desire to enjoy of the living entity is now shaping the bond between Purusha and Prakriti, between the Jiva and the material nature. The bond is being formed between the Jiva and material nature, because remember, the Jiva is spiritual, material nature is of course material, but they are getting together because of the desire of the living entity. So therefore here what happens, there is transmigration of the soul through the different kinds of bodies. So here Krishna is explaining the transmigration of the soul through various species. Let's read this.
Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, he becomes conditioned by these modes. These three modes control the activities of the pure living entity in this world, based on their desires and permitted by their karma. Be not human silkworms, be humans. The silkworm makes a cocoon around itself for the sake of protection, but that very cocoon usually ends becoming the cause of its destruction. Similarly, most human beings are currently encaged by material desires that propel them to seek protection and pleasure in material objects. However, everything material is by its very nature temporary. That's why, as time takes its toll, the same material things that promise to be sources of protection become the causes of devastation. Whatever gives us pleasure when we possess it gives us pain when time disposes us. The Bhagavad Gita, verse 13.22, chapter 13, verse 22, indicates that our own desire to enjoy the material, Bhangte Prakriti Jan Guna, creates a cocoon of material attachments that end in misery. Thus, we become human silkworms.
So the silkworm weaves the cocoon for protection, and it is inside the cocoon. It feels that it is protected, but ultimately to get the silk out of it, that cocoon is put in hot water. Yes, and man to get the silk out of it. So the silkworm ends dying because of that cocoon which it created for its own protection. So we should not become we should not become a human silkworm where we are weaving material desires around us. Ultimately, that is going to be the cause of our downfall. We have to use our intelligence. So how will this material mindset go away? Because we are in the material world and we have a material mindset. How can this material mindset go away? By engaging in spiritual practices. There is no other way. Unless we put ourselves in the fire of bhakti, purification is not going to happen.
उपदृष्टानुमन्ता च भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तो देहेऽस्मिन् पुरुषः परः.
Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the supersoul.
So remember, Krishna is discussing Purusha, and all these verses that we saw in this section so far, Krishna talked about how the Jiva is the Purusha. But now he's talking about how the super soul is the Purusha. He is the transcendental. There is another transcendental enjoyer. There is another Purusha who is the supreme proprietor. So he is the Purusha with a capital P, as we discussed, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the super soul. So the super soul, the Paramatma, is the supreme proprietor. He is a transcendental enjoyer. He is the overseer. He oversees our actions, and he's also the permitter. He sanctions our activities. But beyond all that, he is our best friend. He is our ever well-wisher. Beyond all these functions. Let's read this.
Krishna's purpose is not to catch us when we do wrong, but to catch us when we fall. Krishna's purpose is witnessing is to help, to catch us when we fall, to lift us by giving us wisdom and inspiration. He's not a policeman out to lay down the law, but a parent out to lift us, to lift up his stumbling children with his love. Understanding his benevolent intention can hearten us in our struggle against our lower nature that causes us to slip and fall. We are weak, but Krishna is supremely strong, and he can and will compensate for our weakness, as he assures in the Gita, chapter 9, verses 22. Verse 22. Provided we just strive to be conscious of him gradually, by the combination of our diligence and his benevolence, our falls will become less and less frequent, till we eventually march firmly onwards and upwards to him.
Okay, let's read this.
The road that ends in a ditch needs to be ditched. The path of materialism ends in old age, disease, death, and then rebirth. Thus, we stay fallen in the ditch of material existence. We should ditch the road that ends in this ditch by redirecting our consciousness from the world to our Lord and source, Krishna.
So let's say we are on the road and we are driving and there is a ditch. Are we going to go and purposely put the car where the ditch is, or are we going to avoid the ditch to move forward? Intelligent driver is going to, of course, avoid the ditch and take the path where the road is clear. So in the same way, these ditches are our sense gratificatory activities. We have to use our intelligence, avoid the dish, avoid sense gratificatory activities, and take the road which is going to take us ahead. Take the road to spirituality, take the road to devotional services. And how can we avoid material sense gratification? By giving our mind better sense engagement. That's the only way. We cannot artificially curb the mind. Just as how if there is a child and he's playing with a toy, if we just take the toy away from the child is not going to give it to us. The child is going to cry, throw tantrums. The child is not willing to give it up. But if we give the child a better toy, a more attractive, a bigger, better toy, then the child would be willing to give away the old toy. So when we give the senses better sense engagement, then only we will be able to curb our senses. If we just say, okay, tomorrow onwards, now no more smoking. Sometimes people take a New Year resolution, no? Tomorrow onwards, no more smoking. But how long does it last? After 2, 3, 4 days, he says, okay, let me just smoke one cigarette. That one becomes 2, 3, 4, 5, and then again he's back in the ditch. So artificial curbing of the senses is not going to work. We have to give the senses better sense engagement. 24.
य एवं वेत्ति पुरुषं प्रकृतिं च गुणैः सह सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि न स भूयोऽभिजायते.
One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position.
So now Krishna is saying, giving us what is the result, what is the use of having this knowledge, what Krishna has explained about material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature. What is the result of that? By understanding this, one is sure to attain liberation. So for example, if somebody is tied up with a rope and the rope has knots, if he wants to free himself, he has to understand how the knot is intertwined. Only then he can unlock himself. Only then he can open the knots of the rope, isn't it? Without understanding how the rope has been intertwined, how is he going to set himself free? Or if somebody is locked up, he has to understand the lock mechanism to be able to open the lock. So therefore, if we understand the mechanism of how this material nature, the jiva and the modes are interacting with each other, only then we will be able to liberate ourselves from this material world.
ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना अन्ये साङ्ख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे.
Some perceive the super soul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires.
Now one may ask the question, is there any other way to come out of this other than what Krishna has already mentioned? What you have already mentioned, somebody may ask this question. So here Krishna is saying, yes, you can perceive the super soul through meditation, through cultivation of knowledge, and through working without fruitive desires, through dhyana yoga, through jnana yoga, and through karma yoga.
अन्ये त्वेवमजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्यः उपासते तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः.
Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others, because of their tendency to hear from authorities. They also transcend the path of birth and death.
So here Krishna is stressing about the importance of hearing, Shravanam. So what is he saying? That even though if one is not conversant in spiritual knowledge, if they can hear from authorities, because of their tendency to hear, they can transcend the path of birth and death. So hearing is very, very important. Shravanam, our entire structure, between the guru and disciple, is that the disciple hears from the spiritual master, and then this knowledge is passed down by hearing, oral reception, from the guru to the disciple, from the higher authority to the lower authority. Amongst the 9 items of devotional service also, the first item is Shravanam, hearing. It's not that one has the book and he just reads it on his own, self-learning, and do it myself. Okay, I read the Shastra on my own, and then on my own I go back to Godhead. No, we have to receive the knowledge in disciplic succession, in Guru Parampara. We have to get the word from the spiritual master. So hearing is very, very important. This is not something that you can do on your own. Shastra, yes, everything is written, but Shastra can be very, very bewildering if we don't have someone who's going to explain it to us. We will misinterpret it, we will misunderstand it, and it will be a big mess. Okay, that's why people who do not receive knowledge through proper disciplic succession, they come up with all kinds of these questions. Why did Ram abandon Sita? Ram was wrong. Why did Ram kill Vali from behind? Why did Krishna reveal to Karna that Kunti is his mother? Or why did Krishna cheat on the battlefield of Kurukshetra? Why did Krishna encourage Arjuna to kill Karna when he was without the chariot? Krishna is wrong. So we start to point fingers at God because yes, we have read the Shastra, we know that these incidents happen, but we do not understand the purport behind these incidents. So for that, we need a spiritual master. We need a bona fide authority who's going to help us explain. Otherwise, Shastra on its own, when we read, can really bewilder us. And there will be so many sections which appear to be contradictory. It appears to be contradictory. It's not contradictory. So to understand those so-called contradictions also, we need a spiritual master who's going to explain. So Shravanam, hearing from higher authority, is very, very important. And that's exactly what Krishna is stressing in 26. Let's read the translation.
For one who is anxious to engage constantly in hearing such topics, Krishna Katha gradually increases his indifference towards all other things. Such constant remembrance of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna by the devotee who has achieved transcendental bliss vanquishes all his miseries without delay.
So see, hearing such topics, just by hearing them, samashta dukkhapyayam asu date. Asu means very quickly. What date means goes away. What goes away? Samasta dukkhapyayam. All these miseries will go away. How? Asu, very, very quickly, without delay, very rapidly, the miseries will go away. So this is the potency of hearing Krishna Katha. We come to the last section now. Quickly, we will go through this section so that we can finish this chapter. This section is called as Jnana Chakshu, the vision of knowledge. So a person who has the proper vision, how does he see? Who is the real seer of things, if we can use that term? So let's see 27.
यावत् सञ्जायते किञ्चित् सत्त्वं स्थावरजङ्गमम् क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञसंयोगात् तद्विद्धि भरतर्षभ.
O chief of the Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field.
So remember, this entire section is Jnana Chakshu, one who can properly see through the vision of knowledge, who can really see the things in the right perspective, the real seer. So he's saying the real seer is one who can see everything as a combination of the field of activities and knower of the field of activities, the body and the soul, because the soul has got a certain kind of body. So therefore, everything is going on according to what the soul desired and the kind of body the soul has acquired. Now, to understand this, that everything is a combination of this, let's try to understand. What do you see on the screen?
A picture.
A
Picture
picture.
of Mona Lisa.
Okay. Anyone else has another way of seeing it?
It's an oval shape.
Okay.
The super soul is inside her.
Okay. At the end of the day, it is a combination of three basic dash. What is it? Three basic colors. Okay. It's a combination of three basic colors. Different combinations and permutations of three basic colors has given life to a painting. That painting, of course, is that of a woman. And the painting is called Mona Lisa. But at the end of the day, what it is just a combination of three basic colors. In the same way, everything in the material world is a combination of the three modes of material nature, and the combination permutation of the three modes give rise to infinite desires. Let's go to 28.
समं सर्वेषु भूतेषु तिष्ठन्तं परमेश्वरं विनश्यत्स्व विनश्यन्तं यः पश्यति स पश्यति.
One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees.
So who is the one who actually sees? Who is the real seer? One who comes out of the bodily concept, one who understands that he is the soul, and one who understands that there is a super soul within his heart who is there to always guide him. That person is the real seer.
समं पश्यन् हि सर्वत्र समवस्थितमीश्वरं न हि नस्त्यात्मनात्मानं ततो याति परां गतिम्.
One who sees the super soul equally present everywhere in every living being does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches the transcendental destination.
So one who does not degrade himself by his mind is the real seer. Why? Because he does not go by what his mind indicates. He goes by what the super soul indicates. Nowadays, it's become a fashion. I do whatever comes to my mind. I don't like restrictions. I just want to do man marzi. हम अपने मन के मर्जी के मालिक हैं. They will say in Hindi, no, that I just follow whatever comes to my mind. I'm free to follow whatever I want. So no, intelligence is one who sees with jnana chakshu, with the eyes of the vision of knowledge. is one who does not degrade himself by the mind. Because the mind is always going to tell us to do that which we are not supposed to do. Mind is always going to tell us to engage in sense gratification. So we should not go by what the mind dictates. We have to go by what the super soul dictates to us, because the super soul is going to always guide us in the right direction. So such a person is the real seer. He is the one who sees with the vision of knowledge.
प्रकृत्यैव च कर्माणि क्रियमाणानि सर्वशः यः पश्यति तथात्मानम् अकर्तारं स पश्यति.
One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees.
So he can see that all activities are performed by the body, that the self does nothing, that is, the soul does nothing. So the soul is always pure, irrespective of whether the soul is in the body of an ant or in the body of Lord Brahma. The soul is always pure. Qualitatively, it is the same as the Lord, Satchit Ananda. But because it has acquired a certain body, now the activities are performed by the body. For example, let's say a pig. What now in this pig also the same soul is residing, right? The soul is qualitatively the same as the Lord. And the same soul and qualities reside in the heart of each one of us. But here the soul has acquired the body of a pig. Now, is this pig going to appreciate a nice plate of gulab jamuns, or is the pig going to appreciate stool? What is the pig going to appreciate? Stool. Yes, because now the soul is conditioned by the body that it has acquired. So now because it's the body that is acting. So we act according to the kind of body we have acquired. The object may be the same, but different entities will look at the same object with different consciousness because they have different kinds of bodies. Now we have an attractive, voluptuous woman. When a tiger sees this woman, what is he looking at? Oh, a lot of flesh. I can have a nice meal, good food for me. A lusty man is going to look at her thinking, I want to fulfill my desires. I want to gratify my senses. But when a pure devotee looks at her, the pure devotee is going to think, I see a soul trapped in a material body. How can I help her come out of this bodily conception? How can I help her go back home, back to Godhead? So three different entities. The quality of the soul is the same in all three bodies, but they are looking at different, with different consciousness. 31.
यदा भूतपृथग्भावम् एकस्थमनुपश्यति तत एव च विस्तारं ब्रह्म सम्पद्यते तदा.
When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the, can't read the lower part.
He attains to the Brahman conception. So spiritual angle of vision or jnana chakshu is that a man ceases to see different identities due to different bodies. So he should stop identifying with the body and he should understand that the soul is different from the body. The body has nothing to do with the two knowers of the body, with the soul and the super soul. The kshetra has nothing to do with the kshetragyas. The body has nothing to do with the two knowers of the body, which is the soul and the super soul. So a sensible man knows to differentiate between the body and the soul. Then he attains the spiritual conception.
अनादित्वान् निर्गुणत्वात् परमात्मायमव्ययः शरीरस्थोऽपि कौन्तेय न करोति न लिप्यते.
Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental. eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is
So
entangled.
Krishna is saying that only the body changes, the soul and the super soul are eternal and changeless. So one who sees with this vision is one who is seeing with the jnana chakshu.
यथा सर्वगतं सौक्ष्म्यात् आकाशं नोपलिप्यते सर्वत्रावस्थितो देहे तथात्मानोपलिप्यते.
The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body.
So here Krishna is giving an analogy of how the soul does not mix with the body. The sky, Krishna is saying, mixes with everything. It's there. It's pervading everything. Everywhere the sky is there. But still the sky is not getting mixed with the objects, right? So in the same way, the soul, although it is situated in Brahman vision, that I'm not sorry, not although, the soul that is situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body. He gives one more analogy in the next verse.
यथा प्रकाशयत्येकः कृत्स्नं लोकमिमं रविः क्षेत्रं क्षेत्री तथा कृत्स्नं प्रकाशयति भारत.
O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body or by consciousness.
So what is the other analogy he's giving here is of the sun. Although the sun illuminates the entire universe, in the same way, but at the same time, it doesn't get mixed with the objects of this universe. In the same way, the soul is within the body, but the soul does not get mixed with the body. So the soul is also illuminating the body. Just as how the sun is illuminating the universe, the soul is illuminating the body, because as long as the soul is present in the body is alive. The person is alive. It's not a dead body. And also, as long as the soul is present in the body, there is growth in the body. So one can perceive the presence of the soul by these two factors. One, the person is alive. Two, the body is growing. Once the soul leaves, there is neither growth in the body, nor is there any life, nor is there any consciousness. So this is the other analogy that Krishna is giving to explain how the body and the soul do not get mixed. The last verse of the chapter.
क्षेत्र क्षेत्रज्ञयोरेवम् अन्तरं ज्ञानचक्षुषा भूतप्रकृतिमोक्षं च ये विदुर्यान्ति ते परम्. ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञविभागयोगो नाम त्रयोदशोऽध्यायः.
Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal.
So Krishna is giving a one-verse summary of the chapter in this shloka. What is he saying? That if you can understand the difference between the body and the knower of the body. Now, what is the title of the chapter? Nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. So nature means material nature, and the body that we have got is a product of material nature. So you understand the body and the knower of the body. There are two knowers of the body, the individual soul and the spirit soul. So nature, enjoyer. Who is the enjoyer? We discussed that the real enjoyer is the super soul. Yes, the enjoyer with a capital P, the Purusha with a capital P. And consciousness, when we talk about consciousness, it is the soul that gives consciousness to the body. So this is where the entire title of the Gita, of this chapter of the Gita, is coming from: nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. If you know the difference between the body and the knowers of the body, which is the super soul and the jiva, and you also understand the process of liberation, then what can you attain? What is it that you get? You can attain to the supreme goal. You can get liberation. So this jnana chakshu can grant liberation to the living entity. So let's read the verse by verse summary of the chapter.
Overview of chapter 13, verse 1. As the chapter begins, Arjuna inquires about 6 items: Prakriti, material nature; Purusha, the enjoyer; Kshetra, the field; Kshetragya, the knower of the field; Jnana, knowledge; and the Nyeya, the end of knowledge. Verse 2. Krishna defines Kshetra and Kshetragya respectively as the body and the soul. Verse 3. Krishna states that he is the knower in all bodies, and he defines knowledge as the understanding of these 3: the body, the individual soul, and the super soul. Verses 4 to 7. Krishna lists the 24 material elements that constitute the field of activity, represented by the body. Verses 8 to 12. Krishna enumerates the items that constitute the process of knowledge, this process being non-different from the process of spiritual advancement, whereby the embodied soul is liberated from the bondage of matter. Verses 13 to 19, Krishna next describes Nyeya, the knowable, to be the super soul existing in all moving and non-moving things. The super soul is one, although divided. He is the unattached maintainer of all. The super soul is one, although divided. He is the unattached maintainer of all living beings. He is transcendental to the modes of nature, although he is the master of the modes. And he is beyond the purview of the material senses. Verses 20 to 24, Krishna describes Prakriti, material nature, consisting of 3 modes, and Purusha, the living entity, and he discusses the cause and nature of the jiva's material entanglement. Verses 25 to 26, Krishna mentions different paths for realization of the super soul: Dhyana, Sankhya, Karma Yoga, and the path of receiving knowledge from authorities. Verses 27 to 34, in the final verses,
Mehek, we lost you. We cannot hear you.
which is the super soul. The soul and super soul are both eternal and transcendental to the body. Verse 35. In conclusion, Krishna declares that one is knowledge who sees the distinction between the body and the soul, and who understands the process of the soul's liberation from the body, attains to the supreme goal.
Let's read the conclusion by Srila Prabhupada for this chapter.
The purport of this 13th chapter is that one should know the distinction between the body, the owner of the body, and the super soul. One should recognize the process of liberation as described in verses 8 through 12. Then one can go on to the supreme destination. Srila Prabhupada.
So with this, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Krishna, we come to the end of the chapter which is considered to be the most technical chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 13. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai, Jai.